Hi guys, welcome to Missy's Imaginings. I actually felt like showering and getting dressed today. Like head to toe dressed, and so that's an accomplishment. Thank you for all the kind wishes. I am feeling better. My voice is still weird. There's like congestion still. But yeah, that virus is not very fun. So yeah, I thought today we'd just do a sew and chat. If you've been following on the videos or my website or on Facebook, you might have already downloaded your free copy of the new SD fella pattern for bib overalls. So I thought today I would go ahead and put those together and we could just do a sew and chat. And it's not a difficult pattern, but there's a lot of little pieces. So I thought we could kind of go over working with all those small pieces and how to put them together. I had some fabric that I had been saving that I thought would be perfect for overalls. So it is this blue and white stripe. So it will have the kind of like that traditional conductor overall style. And then I asked my daughter, I had a bin full of fat quarters. And so I asked Savannah with these overalls what shirt would be best. So we have our little selection of some fat quarters here, and she picked out a marvelous little purple floral that looks like this, that will be the button-up shirt. I did find, when I was laying out the pieces for the shirt in this pattern, one fat quarter was not enough fabric. So if you want to do this shirt, especially if you choose to do the pleated back option, because that will use even more fabric, you'll need 2 fat quarters. If you like to shop fat quarters so that you get a big variety of really fun patterns and colors, but you don't want to buy lots and lots of yardage, a lot of times, I know Joanne has them on sale, and they used to be where you could get fat quarters on sale for 80 cents or something like that, but now I think even on sale, I think the sale price is like $1.25. But it's still a fun way to get a large variety of colors. But usually when I'm shopping fat quarters, I get at least 2 of each one, just because a lot of the patterns will need more fabric than will fit on one fat quarter. So that said, for the facings in the shirt, I found that I had just some tiny purple gingham that I will use for the front facing and the back facing for in the shirt. But it's still the same color story, so I think it'll be fine. And so yeah, so just an idea if you're making doll clothing. Fat quarters is a really fun way to get a large variety of prints and colors that can mix and match, and you can do stuff for girls, boys, or anybody, and not have to buy just a piece of yardage, because if you get a quarter of a yard on a bolt, it's going to be very narrow, and then the width of the fabric. So if you're a sewer, you know what I'm talking about. If you're new to sewing, when you buy fabric, they unroll it off of a bolt, and if you only want a quarter yard, it's only going to be 9 inches tall, and then it'll be the width of that fabric when you unfold it. But a fat quarter is cut to where it's half of that width, and then it's 18 inches. So it's the same amount of square yardage, but it's made in a way where you have a piece that's not quite as long and narrow, but it's wider and then a little bit shorter this way. So if you didn't know how fat quarters work, that's what they are. And it's just a great way to get those pieces where if you're making doll clothes, which doesn't require often a lot of yardage, it's a fun way to do that. So So that's what Savannah picked out, was the purple. And so that's what we'll go ahead and put together today, is the overalls, and maybe we'll get to the shirt as well. Also, just in the sew and chat vernacular, I was going through a bunch of my patterns and trying to organize, and sometimes it gets to be kind of overwhelming. And in sorting through, a lot of times if I'm making an adjustment to a pattern, I'll go ahead and make a copy of it, and then I'll scribble on it, and so that way I'm not putting a bunch of marks that I don't want on my master set, but still I can scribble and make changes and not have to retrace everything. And once in a while, when I'm not paying attention, I will have already made like copies of something, and then I'll throw in the pattern and go to make a copy, and it'll make, 4 copies when I only wanted 1. So in going through all my patterns, I discovered that I have a whole bunch of printed patterns, and I have gone through to make sure that each of these particular sets is complete. But if you are in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon specifically, I will be at the Wagon Wheel Dollar Show, and it's DOLLER, as in those who do dolls, I guess. Not dollar like money, but dollar, one who does dolls. I was informed that to make sure I spelled it right on my check. But I do have my table paid for the October show. And for more specifics, because I cannot remember off the top of my head, but you can Google the Polk County Fairgrounds, and on their website there's a calendar of events, and in October is the Wagon Wheel Dollar Show. And if you click on that item on their calendar, then that will bring up information as far as when it starts and when it ends and what the admission prices are and all that. And they have like an early bird opening that's, I don't know, a couple dollars more admission, and then the general opening. But I will have my table there in the same location. It is in, now let me see, I have to envision. It is in the northwest corner of the building. I like that corner. It's just handy for me, I guess. And so I will be there at the doll show. I will have these, and they will be available if people want to buy something that's already printed. So if you like getting the patterns online, that's fine. But if you're not comfortable with that and you're here local and you can come to the doll show, I will probably have these at the doll show so they can be purchased there, along with a few other patterns that I have. So just information, since we're chatting on what's going on with some doll patterns. So in the event, because there's so many like little bitty pieces, I probably won't show all the sewing steps, but I'll let you know what I'm doing. So we can start with that. First, I suppose I should go ahead and get my machine ready. I have a bobbin in here, but I need to thread the machine. So I'll get that, and I'll get my pattern pieces kind of laid out. And yeah, I'll go ahead and move the camera a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing better, but still so we can, kind of chat a little bit too. I'll see what I can do with that. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and put these overalls together and then see how they turn out. I think they're going to be for Jungkook. I think that's who's going to wear this outfit. I don't know. It just didn't seem like a look that Taehyung would want to wear. I don't know. I could be wrong, but it just seemed more like what Jungkook would wear, and I can put him on with his little boots, and I thought it would be a cute outfit. So we'll have him model it at the end, and you can see what you think. So yeah, we'll go ahead and change up the camera, and then we'll continue on our journey. Here's all the pieces, and like I said, there's a lot of pieces. So we'll take a quick look. There's the, where do we even start? I don't know. Okay, so I guess I'll start with one thing that I did have to do, because I discovered my piece of fabric was not long enough to cut this entire piece from the top to the bottom. my fabric wasn't long enough for that. So I had to do a little bit of piecing, and this is the back of the bib overalls. So what I did in order to piece that is I thought, how do I want my seam line to look? Because there's going to have to be a seam line. And so I went ahead and decided I would have it at an angle from the side down towards the back, sort of like on the back of a pair of blue jeans that might have a yoke, how it comes from a little bit from the side below the waistband and it comes down at an angle to the crotch seam. So I made the line kind of like that because it resembles the yoke in a pair of pants anyway. And then I add a line on either side of where that seam line would be to remind myself to make a seam allowance. So then when I'm cutting the legs, I know this would be my seam, and so this is my seam allowance. So I folded the piece so that that amount would fit on the fabric. Then I simply traced another piece, and so I just laid another piece of tissue on top. There we go. And I know my seam line that I want is here, so I added that other 1/4 of an inch to the bottom, so it would also have a seam allowance. So then when I cut it out, I ended up with these two type pieces that I will have to sew together to get the back pieces done. So that's probably the first order of business that I will do, just because this is all supposed to be one piece of fabric and I just didn't have enough. So this is what I will be doing on the back. And then also on the back of the pants we have patch pockets for the back, and so I cut 2 of those, so that will be on the back of the pants here. And on doing pockets, patch pockets, they're pretty easy, they're just tedious. So I always serge the top edge that's going to fold over and be the opening of my pocket. So I'll serge that edge and fold it over, and then I iron a little. I just turn it over and press it all the way around, and then simply sew it onto the garment, and that gives me my patch pockets. So I have these patch pockets to do, so that'll be on the back as well with the piecing that I have to put together, since I didn't have enough fabric. Then this is a totally optional step if you want to do it. I decided I kind of would like to, but it's not required by any means, and that is to have a back facing in the back of the overalls. And what I did to make a back facing piece is I used the whole piece. Where did I just lay it? Oh, it's over here. There we go. I'll get my original piece. So I used the entire piece here, and I got a piece of tissue paper and I just folded it in half like so. And this is something you can do if you want to also have that back facing. Yeah, there we go. So I fold it in half, and then I lay this piece of tissue paper not at the edge of this piece, because this is 2 pieces that will be sewn together, but I lay the fold where the seam line would be, because it won't need a seam because it's one piece. And then I trace around the edge, and then however far down I wanted my facing to come, then I went ahead and just drew a line in and then cut it out on the fold. So that gives me a back facing for the bib overalls. So it's not necessary, but it's just kind of something I wanted to try. And when I was laying out the pattern pieces, I didn't have enough paper, and I would have had to use a whole nother piece of paper. And I thought, well, I'll just show you how to do that if you want to, and then you can, because it's not required or anything. But that's what this piece is. It's just the back facing. Then we have our shoulder straps that look like a little arrow because they're going to be sewn around the edge, flipped right side out. So they'll be shaped like this. There we go. And then these straps, the wider end is what attaches to the back of the overall on each side. So this one goes here, and then the other one would be on the other side, and then they'll go over the shoulders to make the straps. So that's those pieces. There we go, put these over out of the way. So yeah, so that's why they're kind of at an angle. And I thought sewing those and just using a fold has less bulk in it, so it might just be easier to have a piece that'll fold. This piece is, it says the bib overall front band, and this is a piece that is sewn onto the bib to connect it to the actual front pants. So that's what that's for. On the bib itself, there is a front. It says to cut two pieces because you have your front and then you have your facing. So that also has a facing on it. And then this pocket on this one doesn't, this is just my mock-up, but on the actual pattern piece there's some dotted lines just to give you an idea in case you want to have like sectional pockets in the front. So you have one for a pencil, one for, I don't know, gum, one for a ruler. So anyway, you can put little stitch lines on there when you're applying it to the front of the overalls if you want it to have sections, or you can just have one big pocket, whatever you like. So that's those. I did cut a couple little pieces from my selvages because these will be the hammer loops that will be sewn, and they will come out of the side seam of the pant for a hammer loop that bib overalls have. So I have two of those, one for each leg. So there we go. And then we have our layered pockets, which they're kind of fun to put together. So this edge, of course, is hemmed over, and then this edge, oh, I got the wrong size, here we go, is also hemmed, and then they are layered one on top of the other, and then based all the way around to kind of hold them together, and then you'll turn the sides and press them. But that way you'll actually have a tall pocket and then a shorter pocket on the side of the leg. So that's what these are. And then if you cut two of each one, then that'll give you a set of layered pockets for each leg. Or you can not have any, or you could have just one leg, whatever your preference is there. So that's what those pieces are. And then the front is there, it has an optional fly. If you want to have a fly in the front, you can, which real bib overalls do. But if you don't want to mess with the fly on the front, you can just sew the crotch seam from here all the way straight up the front and not worry about a fly. But we'll probably put a fly in these pants just because it's part of the pattern, and that way we'll just have it done the way the pattern is. So yeah, that's all my pieces. So I think first I'll start with getting these ones pieced together, and then I'll go ahead and put the pockets on, and then I'll come back to the camera and we'll kind of take up our conversation from there. Oh, I thought I would show you this. When you're sewing things together that has an angle from, like, this line is straight and this line is straight, but the seam line is at an angle, when you lay these pieces together, you don't want to match up the edges of your fabric at the tip, because when you do that, after you sew them, your seam is going to be off-centered and your fabric's not going to line up correctly. So what you want to do, and let's see, how can I do this and not make a mess on my project here? Let's see, I want to make sure it shows in the camera. Right about there, does that show well? Okay, so if you could imagine on each of these pieces where the seam line is going to be. So here we'll we'll just use my little ruler and a pencil, and hopefully it'll show up, but it won't show through the fabric too bad. And then I'll do the same on here, just so you can see it. And here again, this is for those that are beginning to sew, just happy little hints that will give you better results. So if you would imagine, hopefully this will show, my glasses don't help me a lot, but this pencil line is our actual seam line, right? And so when you're lining up your pieces, of course you're going to have right sides together, what you want to do is you want to imagine that the seam line, where the seam line hits the edge of the fabric, that's where you're going to line it up. Not the edge, like the corner of the fabric to the corner of the fabric, but you're going to line up so that the seam line is at the edge of the fabric right there. And I don't have my pointer here very well. Here we go. We'll just use the scissors. So right here on the edge of this fabric, you want the seam line to come to the edge of the fabric, not necessarily the fabric to the edge. So there we go. We'll line it up here, and the same on this way. So that way, when you put it in your machine, you will have these like weird little triangles in your seam allowance. So I'm gonna sink my needle there. Oh, and I didn't make the line quite on the seam, so that's kind of nice too, because it won't show through. So we'll go ahead and sew that. Do a little back tack. Hello? Okay. Now we'll take a look at what happens. So instead of lining up the edge of the fabric, you line up where your seam is going to go, because then, voila, then your fabric edges will be straight. So just a little hint, and yes, then when you turn it, and like I'm going to serge these, but if you were to open it up like this on the right side of the fabric, you'll see you have a little triangle on this side that sticks out, and a little bitty triangle on this side of that seam allowance that sticks out. But it's because of the angle that it was sewn that you want to line up where your seam hits the edges of the fabric, because the seam is the part that holds it together, and that's what you want lined up. So anyhow, that's just a little helpful hint if you're new to sewing and you're working with things at an angle and things never line up right, and you keep getting it done, you can't figure out, why is this not lining up? I'm doing edge to edge, but you don't want to do the side edge tip. You want to line up where your seam line is going to meet the edge of the fabric. So on this piece, the seam line goes from edge to edge, and then on this side, the seam line goes from edge to edge. So that's what you want lined up for a really nice straight result after you sew it. So I was thinking, it's very sad to me that I have to turn off my TV, well, like the VCR or whatever that's playing, for you guys to have some background music while we sew and chat, because we recently just got our BTS 2021 memories packages delivered, and but I can't play that because it's all like copyrighted stuff, and you know, not that I'm worried that it you know, prevent me from being monetized or anything like that, because I don't make any money off of YouTube anyway, but but I just don't want, you know, to get in trouble for having copyrighted stuff on there. But that's what we would be listening to as we visit in the background. But yeah, I can't have that on there because of all the rules. So unfortunately, we just kind of have to go with whatever I can find that's not copyrighted or royalty free, I guess is what they call it. I guess they call it royalty free stuff. So yeah, I had the concert on, because in the memories pack, I think there's, is it, oh my goodness, 7 6 or 7 CDs, I don't remember, or DVDs. And so a couple of them feature in this memory pack. Usually, well, any memory pack you get has features one of their concerts. And this one features the Permission to Dance concert that they did online during COVID. And so it was one of the first big, they did do a muster, but I don't remember when in the time frame it falls. I don't remember. But we did have to laugh, the girls and I, because we started counting up, and when it comes to the Permission to Dance concert, we actually watched that concert. We've seen the Permission to Dance concert, not counting watching it on the Memories package, but literally watching that concert. We've seen that concert 9 times. I was like, holy cow, we know this playlist backwards and forwards. Now, you might ask, how in the world did you go to 9 BTS concerts? Well, in truth, we didn't literally go to 9, but let's see. So I'm going to get my handy dandy fingers here. We'll see if we can count them out. So they did the online performance, and they did 2 nights. And of course, we got tickets to watch it both nights for the live stream. Then, like a week and a half later or whatever, they do a replay of each of those performances. And so our tickets allow us to watch the replays. So that's the first 4. Then they went to Los Angeles, and we actually went to Los Angeles to the concert to watch it live. So that was the LA concert that we actually did get to go to, and it was so much fun. So that makes 5. Then they went back to Seoul, and they were able to do, and I don't remember the time frame. Then they also had the Las Vegas concert after the Grammys, but I don't remember where the timeline was. But at one point they went back to Seoul, and they did live concerts in Seoul, but they couldn't use they couldn't cheer, so because they had to wear masks and everybody had to be social distance, and they had to use these clapper things. And so they did 2 nights in Seoul, and so our tickets were for both of those nights. So we watched both of those performances while they were in Seoul, and then of course both of those had replays as well, and so we watched both of those replays. So that's 9 times that we have watched. Oh wait, no. Seoul was only 1 night, I guess. Yeah, 1 night. And then we watched the replay. And then they did the Las Vegas concert, and they did a live stream of the Las Vegas concert, and that had a replay. That was our last one, was the Vegas concert. So, yes, but it was 9 times that we've watched this concert. But I will say I was very tickled because in my opinion, the night that we saw them in Los Angeles at the SoFi Stadium, in my opinion, was the very best one for a couple reasons. First of all, is we got to participate in the birthday celebration for Jin, which was so much fun. And people were making little things, and the girls had pre-made theirs at home, because Army had it going all over social media that we were going to have a birthday thing for Jin. And so there were lots of birthday wishes and signs that said happy birthday. And we made, they were some kind of a little covering that went over the Army bomb that had like the cutout shape of a moon, because that's his song that he has for Army is Moon. And so everyone, and then a lot of people went and handmade the little cutouts to go over the Army bombs, and they were handing them out. And so all of them were handmade, whether people were getting together before the concert or if they'd done them at home, so that when at a certain point in the concert, everybody put those over the top of their army bombs, which are the light sticks that you can get. And so it was all these little moons that shone all over the stadium. So it was phenomenal. So that was really fun. And then also we got to hear, we got to be there the night that Chris Martin from Coldplay came on stage and performed My Universe with BTS, which was their collaboration. So I think we had the very, very best concert night just because I love that song, and then because of the birthday thing for Jen. It was so fun. We had so much fun. And also, while we were on our trip, so many things were just so phenomenal in how we were able to maneuver in LA. Oh my goodness. Excuse me. We are not city people at all. I mean, by no stretch of the imagination. We're just little country bumpkins. And so in LA, it can be very overwhelming to, maneuver there. So but my daughter has been there several times because her best friend lives in LA. And so we got there and she kind of knew her way around from our particular airline gate how to get out of the airport. And so we got up, but then we had to find the shuttles to get to the hotel. And the airport is awful in that in order to get from where our airline gate was, it's like you have to go out of the gate and then down these things and down and around some stairs outside, follow the concourse down a ways, and then go back upstairs at one point so that you can come out of the building further down, because there was no way to get there from where our gate was, because if you tried to walk around, you just ended up in this weird customs claims office. And so it was this horrible, horrible maneuvering we had to do. So then we're looking and trying to find where the shuttles are, and the timing was, we just think we had angels on our shoulders. That's all there is to it, because we went out and we're walking down, and I'm thinking, okay, if we just keep walking far enough, we'll probably find some shuttles. and as we're walking, sure enough, from far away, I mean really far away, I could see the Marriott shuttle. And so I said, Maddie, that's it. Well, she didn't have her glasses on, and so she couldn't tell what bus I was talking about. So that was no help. So I just took off running. I said, keep up. And I just started running. And so I finally got to the bus as it's pulling away from the curb. And this is in LA, let me tell you, people. There were a lot of cars. But I didn't care. I was just going to go for broke, right? So I run up to this bus that is literally, it has pulled away from the curb, and it is watching cars so that it can just pull out into traffic. And I bang on the door. And the guy, he looks and he opens the door and he goes, yes. I said, do you have room for 3? And he goes, yeah, come on. And so he let us on. He let us on the shuttle. I was like, oh, praise God. So we get on the shuttle, and the way that, I mean, everybody, is crowded on these shuttles, there were 3 seats left. That's all, 3 seats. So we get into the shuttle, and there was a little gal that I kind of had to sit by, but not that I had to sit by, but when I sat down, she was next to me. But I didn't want to smash her. It's just this wonderful, beautiful little gal, and I am not little by any stretch of the imagination. So I didn't want to, smash her. And so I was making sure that she still had plenty of room on the seat as well. And so we end up getting to the hotel, and there were so many people there for the concert, and the lobby was full of people, and the hotel was kind of running behind on trying to get everything, like all the rooms ready, and all that stuff. And so we ended up in line waiting to check on when we could get into our rooms. And the little gal that had sat with me on the shuttle, she ended up being right behind us in line. And so we were chatting, and of course she was there for the concert as well. And she had just flown in from Japan. So she had just had like over 10-hour flight, which was crazy. And so she'd been flying for a long time already, where we, flew to LA from Oregon. So it was just a couple-hour flight. It wasn't bad at all. And so we ended up being in line for a while. And then while she was we checked and our room wasn't ready. And so then she was checking, and we went and were able to snag a couple seats at a table in the lobby area. And so we saved her a seat so that when she came back, because we didn't think her room would be ready either, which it wasn't, but then she had a spot by us so we could all just kind of hang out together while we were waiting for our rooms to get ready. And so then we were just chatting, and while we had been in a line, there was a gentleman from the hotel that they have hotel shuttles, but to the concert venues, they don't always have hotel shuttles to a venue. They have them to and from the airport, but not necessarily to a venue. So he had some pamphlets because there was a company that was partnering with the hotel and was providing a shuttle service. And when he was telling us about it, we asked how much it was. And we thought that because of the way he worded it, we thought what he said. But anyway, he didn't word it very well. And so we were thinking it was going to be to get from the hotel to the stadium would be like $150 a piece. And that we weren't going to pay that much if we didn't have to, So we're sitting there, and then we're looking at the pamphlet again, because while he was talking to us, we were in line. And so then after we were sitting there and waiting, we're kind of looking, and we realized, no, it would have been $150 for all three of us to use the shuttle service to go to and from the venue. And while still expensive, that seemed a lot more reasonable than $450 to get to the venue. So we thought, well, we'll think about that, because the convenience part was that to get an Uber or a taxi or whatever to the venue wasn't a big deal, but the big deal came when you're trying to leave the venue and trying to figure out how to meet back up with some kind of a transportation service to get from the venue back to the hotel that late at night. And so that's why we were considering the shuttle service, because then we would have a guaranteed shuttle ride back and a given place to meet, and it would be easier to get back than trying to meet up with an Uber or something like that. So we were thinking, and we're sitting there and we're talking about all this and discussing what we want to do. And the little gal that we met, and she has social media and she has a YouTube channel and everything, but I just don't want to give out her information because I don't have her permission right now. But anyway, she was sitting there and she says, well, I rented a car. And we said, oh, well, we didn't really think about we could do that. And she goes, no, you can ride with me. And we're like, what? And then Savannah, she said, my daughter, she said, I have parking. Because as part of the tickets, we had paid for parking because we didn't know if we would or would not rent a car when we were there. And so she got a really good discount on parking by purchasing the parking when she got the tickets. And so our little friend, she was like, yes! So we ended up, we gave her some money for driving, just to help with car rental and everything. And then we were able to cover the cost of the parking. So that was really nice, because then after the concert was over, we just had to go back to the parking lot and, get in the car. But I tell you what, trying to leave a stadium like that, holy cow, that was, that was an adventure. And then when we went to the venue, everything was like blocked in these weird places, and so it was kind of a pain. But then when we went to leave, a lot of all the exits and everything had been blocked off and changed, and the directions were changed. And so it was hard to try to find our way back to the hotel because they had rerouted all the streets. And, oh my goodness. Which, I totally understand. That's a lot of traffic leaving a big stadium like that, but holy cow. And our little friend, she was the driving queen. Let me tell you, she was just maneuvering in and out of that traffic like nobody's business. And I was so blessed that I was not driving. So that was so much fun. And these guys, we really do love them. We love their music and just how hard they work. And it doesn't hurt that they're easy on the eyes. So we, all three of us are definitely Army till the end. And it was such a fun concert. And there's somebody on YouTube that I've kind of been watching who's kind of started down the rabbit trail on listening to their music and watching videos and stuff. And I commented there that this concert in particular, the Permission to Dance concert, was insane, because normally when they perform, there's 7 guys. If you don't know who they are, there's 7 guys in the group, and they'll do like solo pieces or unit pieces that gives everyone else like a chance to rest between two, because they are doing choreography and singing like nobody's business the whole time. And it would be exhausting because they're long concerts. And but for the Permission to Dance, because of the whole COVID thing, they hadn't been able to do a live concert for so long that they wanted to be on stage, all 7 of them, for the entire concert. So all of the numbers included all 7 members. And they only had like some like video breaks where they would change costume and hopefully get a breather. But it was insane, the playlist, because it was all 7 of them the entire concert. So yeah, it was just crazy. So here's our back put together with the pockets are put on there. Am I showing them? I noticed when I was editing that other video that half the time I have my hand in the way or the thing is not in the view of the camera, so I want to make sure. Okay, I guess that's showing. I think I'm going to go ahead and press this open just about till, well, yeah, I guess it wouldn't matter if I press it open all the way. I'll probably serge it first and then press it to one side. That's probably what I'll do. Yeah, we'll do that. And then I was debating, because I thought, they are overalls, and a lot of times the overalls will have like a label on them. So I think once I get that serged and pressed over, I think I'm going to go ahead and put my my little label on there. I think that'll look cute. I'll cut off this part so it'll just be the little square. But I think that'll be fun. So I'll mark them with my little label. That'll be fun. But anyway, yeah, so that was our concert experience. And then our little friend drove home for us. And, well, not home, but back to the hotel. So it was a fantastic night. So much fun. Okay, so doing the fly on the front of the pants, I went ahead and I like to serge the edge of this fabric because otherwise it would just be raw. I don't turn that twice. So I serge the front of the fly. You can also zigzag it if you want. And so right now, I'm just going to sew the crotch seam from the inseam up to where this little cut line is. That would be the bottom of the fly. There we go. So anyway, yeah, so if I had my druthers, that would be the music you would get to listen to rather than just some of the hokey stuff that I find online that's royalty free, because I usually have it playing while I'm sewing, but then I just have to either turn it off or put it on mute while I'm talking, or gonna have actual sound in the video. So you're just kind of stuck with me, I guess, in a sewing chat with no fun tunes. Okay, I'm going to put a short or small zigzag on this part of the crotch seam just to give it some extra reinforcement here. And I have a little note on my machine for the zigzag amount. Let's see, I'm going to hit a zigzag stitch, and then for the size of the zigzag it's going to go to a 2.0, and for the length of the stitch I'm going to go to 0.5, which I write it down because I would never remember. That's what I do on my machine anyway. And so I'm going to go and I'm going to zigzag really close to the seam line. There we go. Just going to move it along there. And I'm just stitching in the seam allowance really close to the seam that I sewed. Turn that off. Alright, now I don't know if this will show in the lighting, but the seam line is here, and then the zigzag is here, and then I'm going to trim away some of the fabric. There we go, like that. That's just how I do inside of a fly. You don't have to do that, but I like to reinforce it and not have a lot of bulk right in the front of my pants. So that way it's been reinforced. But if you serge it, you're going to have the whole width of that seam allowance. This way I've got a little bit of reinforcement in the front where you're going on and off and opening and closing the pants, and it reinforces that. So that's my own preference on putting that together. You can choose to do it any way that you're more comfortable with. So then we have the front put together. Well, we'll go ahead and finish. I normally put the pockets in first, and I didn't. I just did the crotch seam and the fly, but we'll do that and we'll get the pockets in next. Okay, so on male pants, which these are going to be for a male, I'm turning the fabric so you can see, like, here's the waistband as if you're going to put the pants on. So we're looking at the inside of the front of the pants, like we're going to put them on. So the male pants overlap from the left side overlaps. So if you lay the pants like this for male pants, the overlap side is where I'm going to take this fly fabric and fold it all the way back so that it's just folded right on the center seam. So on the front center, that's going to be straight up. And sometimes I'll check and see if I can line it up nice with the print that's on the fabric, which that looks okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and pin that just to kind of help hold it in place, like so. Then this side of the fly, I'm not going to fold it back at all, because when this overlaps like this, I like having as much fabric as possible left on the inside of the fly, so that if that were to gap, it's still got fabric coverage. You can put a snap in here later, but I just like to have as much fabric. So that's why I finish this edge, because this piece of fabric is just going to lay flat. I'm not going to change that. Now, sometimes when you're making pants and you have a waistband, you have to allow that your waistband is going to go, you know, from the center front on this side, but when it wraps around, your waistband will actually need to come past the center to the edge of your fabric. So that's why I always cut my waistbands a little bit long, is to make sure that I have enough length on the waistband to account for this part of the back of the fly that's still going to need a waistband attached at the top. But because these are bib overalls, they're going to have a band across the top. And I did cut that one long as well, because that way I can trim it as I need to when I get it on there. So anyway, this is how we're going to go ahead and fit the fly. Now, because this is not going to be like a waistband opening, now that I have everything lined up the way I want it, I'm just going to baste across the top. Well, or stitch. Yes, I'm not making it a basting stitch, if I can get my foot to stay up. But I do need to clear out the zigzag too, so don't forget to do that. And then just inside the seam allowance, I'm just going to sew that across the top, just to hold it in place. There we go. And when I'm making like underwear, a lot of times I'll do the same thing. I just close it at the top, because then it's going to have a elastic around the waist, but it's not going to have an open waistband. And then you can always add a snap there. All right, pockets. I forgot the pockets. So anyway, yeah, that was our concert tale, because I can't have it playing in here. So to do pockets, we're going to put the right sides together and sew on the pocket edge. Just going to sew that on there. And yeah, but as I've been sick, I haven't been doing much sewing. I did work on those little the little pants for the Maury set, but that's about it. And so I've been watching some BTS stuff and some scary movies. I watched all of Stranger Things. So I had already seen bits and pieces, and then I watched the last season with the girls, and but I'd never seen all of it. And so I'd wake up in the morning, and it'd be, you know, really early, because I'm normally used to getting up really early for work. And so I would wake up and be awake and not be able to go back to sleep. And now we're going to trim the seam allowance. I'm going to get different scissors. So I would watch stuff until then I would fall back to sleep, and just trying to get through this virus. And so I binged watched Stranger Things and some scary shows. I like scary shows once in a while. I don't like, how do I define this? I don't mind things being scary, but I don't like a lot of the modern horror stuff, just because to me, I like a good story, but I'm not entertained by seeing how disgusting something can be. I don't know if that'll make sense. If something is just disgusting for no reason, that's just not what I like to watch. But if something has, you know, a good scare in it, I don't mind that. I like a good monster. Um, but yeah, just a lot of the horror genre nowadays, I don't like it because to me it's just gross. It's, I don't know. It's just not my thing. So, I mean, if you love it, you know, you do you, and that's okay. But it's just not me. But I do like a good story, and I don't mind a good monster. Um, yeah, those I don't mind. Once in a while. It's not what I watch all the time, but, you know. And I mean, well, yeah. So, I did watch some scary stuff. Some I would start and then think, ew, yuck, and then I'd turn it off. Find something else. So now I'm going to fold this back so that the edge is folded back to form the edge of the pant, like that. So, I don't know if that showed. So, we sew it on and get it all top stitched, and we take the inside edge and we just match it up to the edge of the pant there. And then when that's matched up, now I'm going to run the bottom through the serger machine and sew that and close that off, and then I'll go ahead and stitch it up the side to create the side of the pant. And here again, I'm just going to be inside the seam allowance because I'm just tacking this down. But when you sew the pocket down, and then I'm just going to go all the way across the top, just because it's less in and out of the machine. There we go. Just make sure that's all laying nice and flat. I'm going to sew across the top. And this one, make sure that's all flat. And these pants are going to seem really wide, and part of that is because they need to overlap for closures on the sides of the overalls. And, you know, you can... I'm not brave enough to attempt tiny buttonholes, but I do use stamps. So whatever kind of a closure you want. But that's why they are a little bit wider at the top, is because they're going to need to be able to close. I think I'm going to trim in a little bit. Just a little. So I'm going to trim from the pocket up to roughly where that seam was. So it's about 1/8 of an inch. I think I'm going to go ahead and trim off. You probably don't have to, but I think I'm going to. There we go. Okay. Now, let's see, what do I want to do next? I'll put these things together. While I have been fighting off this virus, I have been eating some of my favorite soup, which, well, it's one of my favorite soups. I love a good soup. Even in the summertime. I know a lot of people only like soup in the winter, but I love soup. and so I made some beef barley soup, and I think I'm going to just do 1/8 of an inch seam allowance on these. Well, or maybe a little bit bigger than 1/8, but I think I'm not going to do a full quarter. I think I'm going to leave them a little bit longer, or a little bit wider. So, oh, and this end is the one I want open, so I'll go back and fix that. So I want the wider end to stay open, and this is the end I want closed. So here, I'll close up this end. So yeah, beef barley soup. I've been eating a bunch of beef barley soup, which I really like. And then once in a while, my daughters got over the virus before me, and so once in a while when they were coming home, they'd bring me some French fries, which were delish, because I love French fries. And so yeah, but didn't feel like eating a lot. But once in a while I would be hungry for the French fries, and then the beef barley soup was really good. So that's kind of what I've been eating. And then, so I made the one pot, and it tasted really good, so then I thought, you know what, I'm going to make another pot of that. And it's nice because when you have soup, then you can just warm it up and eat on it for a couple days, so it's less work overall, which is always good in my book. Let's see, there we go, one more. And so yeah, so it's always good. The least amount of work that I have to do, the better. I think I am headed back to work next week. And it was funny because of course I've been in contact, you know, with supervisor and all that stuff through all of this joy. and so I let them know that I was gonna come back on Monday. I think I'll be okay to go back. But like right now, if I were to return to work, I would have to use a mask, and I don't think I could breathe if I had to try to work and wear a mask. And because right now it's still kind of hard to breathe sometimes. And I mean, if I'm just sitting here, you know, that's one thing. But if I'm working and I'm up and down and, you know, trying to get stuff accomplished, and then have to wear a mask at the same time, I don't think I would have been able to do it. So I said I'll come in next Monday. So then my supervisor contacted me because they were checking on time cards and all that kind of stuff. And then she said, oh, also, she said, just, you mentioned coming back on Monday, but we won't be here Monday because of the holiday. So we'll see you on Tuesday. And I texted her back and I said, yeah, that would have been a really interesting Monday for me to go all the way into work, drive an hour to get there, and then there's nobody there. So I'm glad she let me know, because I totally spaced that it was going to be a holiday weekend. So yeah, that kind of, now this part's probably going to take me a while, so I'm probably going to go off camera while I fight with turning these straps, because my fingers are not cooperating very well. So I'll get these turned and then I'll be back. So I put the bib together. I just did right sides together, went around the curved edge, flipped it right side out, top stitch it, added on the little pocket. So I have the front pocket, there's this little wide pocket, then there's this pocket, and then this pocket on the front of the bib. And that's just by sewing around the outside and then putting the stitching here. And you can do that however you might like. And then I put one of the bands on the front just across the top. I just sewed it on there. Then I folded the pants to find the center front, which lines up really well with my fly. So that was good. And then I also folded this in half and put a notch to find the center of my bib. So now with right sides together, I'm going to sew the bib onto the top of that band. So I'm going to put it on there and just sew that on with right sides together. Dun, 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 dun. And let's see here. Okay. And I also have a new thing that I tried just today. So I'm going to see how it works. But, oh wait, I think I need to actually have my seam allowance in the right spot. That would help. I got some new shampoo because I have discovered that my hair is getting really thin. I used to have really, really thick hair, but it is getting really, really thin. And my daughter has been using Monet shampoo, and it actually helped because she kind of deals with like thyroid issues, and it's helping her hair come back. So I thought, well, that's really cool, so I'm going to try it too. So that's what I'm doing. So now, here we go. Now is the moment of truth on how I want to put this together. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I'm going to take, I should have just did this at the same time. Now that I have the bib on here, I'm going to put the other band with the right side toward the bib and towards the right side of the band. So I've got the bib sandwiched in between, and I'm going to sew this band here like this, but I'm going to dun, 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 dun. Before I do that, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to serge the edge of my pocket, because I'm thinking if that's going to turn in, it's not going to turn in twice. So I'm going to start probably about from below the pocket a little bit, and I'm just going to serge up this side and up this side to finish off that edge of the fabric, and then I will be back. And I'll probably do that on, let's see, on this one as well, excepting it won't have to go as far, but yeah, I think I will on this one as well. So probably about from the pocket to the top edge, I'm going to serge the edge of those as well, just so that if there by chance is any raw fabric once it gets turned on this one, that it will be finished. So I'll do that and then come back. So when I'm sewing this little band on, I'm also going to sew down the side, but I'm going to turn up the edge, the raw edge, so that the fold of the fabric meets the edge of the band that's already on the front. So we'll get a better look at it when we get closer to it here. There, get my foot so it's out of the way. And what that's going to do is it's just going to make for a nicer turn when I flip that band. So we're going to come down here, maybe one more stitch, there we go, and turn it. And I've got the edge of that, the raw edge turned up towards that direction. And I'm just going to, there we go, pull it out. Okay. Where I ran out of bobbin and had to put that on. So now, since this is folded up right there, see how I fold that up on this edge and this one, and I also sewed here. So now that's going to turn towards the back, and then I can flip it, and let's see if I can, maybe I can. There we go. My fingers aren't cooperating very well. There we go. So that it will, and I might go ahead and take some of the bulk out of there. Maybe off the raw edge and a little out of the corner. We'll do that. Just a little out of the corner, and then some of that raw edge will trim off. Okay, so now we'll try this again since I'm making a mess. So we're going to turn it towards the back, towards the inside, and then flip it. There we go. And try to get that to all line up as I throw my tweezers on the floor. There we go. So then this side seam will turn in like this, and that's why I wanted to finish this edge of the fabric. Make sure it's in the view of the camera there, because when I sew the leg together, part of this is just going to be is not going to be in the seam because it's going to overlap the back so that we can put our closures on. So I'm going to fold this this way and then fold it back and press that corner out. So then I can, let's see, have this part, yeah, it goes like this. I'm going to turn it under, and then all of those raw edges of fabric will be contained inside the band. And then I can just top stitch that in place. I can turn it under enough, there we go. And then I can just press that and then stitch it in place. And then it's real nice on the inside and the outside. And then these edges that will turn in order to put like my snaps on the side, then they will also have a nice finished edge once it's all finished. So I'll have to press that and get it in place. So I'm just kind of wrapping all those raw edges of fabric from the bib and then laying this down, making sure all my edges are up in there, and then I will stitch that in place. So there's probably better ways to do this. I'm sure there are, but that's how I put mine together. And hopefully it will make enough sense that if you want to try the pattern, it will work for you. To me, it just seemed like the easiest way to get everything where I want it. Okay. Now, it's going to be a bear at the beginning because it's a lot of fabric, so I'm going to gently tug with my string and then actually lift my foot a little bit. There we go. And make sure all of this is in place. Alright. I didn't even press it. I was going to press it, but I think if I just sew it down, I'm going to be fine. Okay. And you can trim away a bunch of that if you want. I just thought, well, it's all pretty flat, so I'm just going to sew it down. There we go. Okay. And then when I get to this edge, I do want to make sure that my side seam is, that I have enough of my side seam. There. I'm going to lift my needle and seek it. Come back. There we go. Kind of a little bit of a manual back tack that way, because it is a lot of fabric there. Okay, and here's our front. So that's the front of the bib overalls. Got a lot of fuzzies on there. And so far, I'm okay with that. And then here, I might put a snap in there too, because that does kind of gap. But we'll see. So now, let's see, we need to finish out the back, right? Okay. Here's the back. And my, let's see, I have to think how my strap's gone. Yeah, this strap goes on this one. So we'll sew this on here. There. Okay. There. I'm curious if there's anyone who sews with me when I'm sewing. I'm curious. On tutorials, when I am doing like a tutorial of some sort, a lot of times I want to do it kind of in tandem with whoever is teaching the tutorial. And then I just kind of reference things as I go through the process. So I'm curious on how y'all do that as well. If you just like to watch things and then give it a shot yourself, or if you like to have, you know, like a phone or a tablet or something on while you're going through the steps. I'm just really curious. Now this one, let's see, that's going to be a little bit more difficult because I have one in the way. So I'm going to pull that one out of the way so that I can get this one on. And let's see, okay, folding it back. Excuse me. So on this one that's already on, I'm going to fold it back towards the side that it goes, so that now I can put this one on this side, and I'm just sewing to where the fabric meets, so I want to be careful so I don't overlap the bands, because I don't want the stitching on the bands to sew them together. So I'm going to be really careful with where I sink my needle, and I'll probably do that by hand right there. Now that that's in place and I can see where it was going, okay, then I'll lower my foot and there we go. And now I'm not going to back tack all the way. I'm going to flip it around so that once again I can actually see where my needle is going, because sometimes if you're only back tacking, it's hard to see where that back tack is going to land. There we go. So now I can pull it out. Alright, so then our straps look like this. And I have got some fuzzies on this one, which I might be able to pull out some of those threads and trim them. I think it was from, it got caught on my feed dogs, so I'll have to go back and fix that later. But now I've got the straps on, so I'm going to lay them down and put them so they're inside the center here, because now I'm going to put my facing on, and I don't want to catch my bands in my facing, so I want to lay them down so that they're well out of the way as I sew around this edge. So here we go. So I'm going to put this on and sew all the way around that edge, and then I'll come back to the camera. Okay, so I sewed up the side, around, up the tip, back, and back down and down the side. And I am going to trim this seam allowance kind of from the edge. I'm just going to go to that first corner. There we go. And then I'm going to trim it at about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit bigger. But that's a lot of fabric to try to turn. So I'm going to go up to the top. I'm going to go like flat across the tip. But you want to be careful that you don't cut any of your seam. There we go. We'll cut around here. And hopefully when we turn it, I didn't catch anything. I wouldn't bet on it, but we'll see. And then back down to the edge. Okay. Now we'll go ahead and flip it right side out. We do have the benefit of these, and let's see, did I catch them? I maybe caught a little bit. But I think it's going to be okay. There's a little bit of a rumple there. Let's see. And then this will come out on the corners, like so. Let me find the corner on this one. All right. So, not horrible, not the best, but not horrible. So, there we go. And yeah, it's something in this side, but I didn't catch my bands, but I think the edge was just, because they were folded, it made a weird lump. So I'm not sure how to fix that exactly, and I think I might just sew it down and call it good. But there's the back. I think I'm going to be happy with that. I'm not going to try to redo it, because I think I would make a bigger mess if I tried to take it apart. Yeah, I maybe should have left the bands narrow instead of making them a little bit wider. So yeah, I should learn my lesson to just follow the pattern, right? And make it the way the pattern is cut. Let's see. There we go. But I think it'll be okay for now. So I'm going to press this. We have the back done, and then the front. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to line up from the hem and sew up the leg to the top edge of the front pocket, and so that's how far up I'm going to sew on each of the side seams. So I'll start at the hemline, sew all the way up to the top edge of the pocket, and then do some back tacking there so that it'll stay. And then you can see that my edges line up together here, which is what we wanted. So I'm going to do that on both sides, and then what we'll do is we will go ahead and put on those other pockets that are these pocket sets, and they will go on the seam. And then somewhere I also had those the little loops. Oh, here they are. These little bits of fabric that I will sew to make the hammer loops, and I'm just going to fold them in and then tack it down so I have a loop. And then these will also be included in the side seam so that there'll be a hammer loop on each leg. So we'll do those on each leg, and then the pockets will be like patch pockets. I've already sewn them together and basted, and so those will be just turned and pressed and then sewn on like the other patch pockets. And then all I'll have to do is hem the pants and do the inseam. So I think that will kind of have our overalls together. So it's not a lot more complication stuff. I'll maybe come back when we're putting on the pocket, just because that'll be sewn on the outside, and I'll show you one of those legs, and then we're pretty close to being done. So now the side seams are done, and I'm going to put these little skinny pockets on the legs. If you want, you could always make these wider. They probably could be a little bit wider. They're just kind of like tool pockets. But if you wanted more, you could always do that. Back tack a couple times up at the top just so that there's, you know, reinforcement where that might pull. Stitch down around the bottom, and then go. Make sure my little ends are all tucked in there. Alright, and then back up this side. And I did fold the tip of that one taller corner down when I pressed it, just so that it has a nicer look, and it doesn't have any of those icky raw edges showing. So we'll come up here, back tack a bit. Alright, pull that out, and we'll take a look at it here in a second. Okay. Trim all our threads. If I can get a hold of them. There we go. Oh, I guess one of them's still attached to the machine. There we go. Alright. And, oh, and then I always hem the pant leg, because this is when I usually do it, unlike on that little Mori set we did last time that adds that little trimmer on the outside. Since this doesn't have any, this is the easiest time to hem the pants, is just before we do the inseam. I've already serged the edge, so I put it on there. Got that all serged so that it's a nice finished fabric edge, and then we'll just turn it up 1/4 of an inch. And let's see if we can get over that lump there, the side seam. And so that's when I usually hem the leg of the pant, because who wants to fight with a little round hem to try to fit in the foot inside there. So there we go. So here is our pocket on the leg. Make sure that's in the view of the camera. So we have the taller one here, and then the shorter one here. So there's 2 pockets, and then here's the hammer loop. Oh, I got a thread there. We'll trim the thread. There we go. And then we have the hammer loop here. So there we go. So we've got our tool pockets and hammer loop, and then I also did the hammer loop in the seam on the other leg, so I just need to put the other pocket on this leg, hem this, and then all that's left is to do the inseam, and then we'll take a look at our buttons and strap fixtures. So there we go. So I'll do that much, and then we'll come back. And here they are. So here's the completed, it's hard to get them all in the frame. So here's the completed overalls, and I did do the little hand tacking in the back. So it looks a little messy on the inside, but the back does look better. It lays better. The straps are going the right way. So just a lesson to me, just sew it the way I made the pattern, because that way it will fit. So I really think that's why I had trouble on these, is because I thought, well, I want them to be a little bit wider so I won't take a full 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then they ended up being too big. So that's why I think I had that weird buckle up there. But if you sew them just according to the pattern with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, they'll probably fit way better for you. So then on the sides, we'll take a look at, remember how we finished the edges of these side edges, and here's why. So most of the back part is up inside the facing, but this one is not. It's kind of free floating. So that's why I wanted that edge finished. Then on the side, I'll probably go ahead and top stitch it down just so it won't tend to turn out. And then this back piece is going to overlap just a little bit so we can put a snap here. And it's up to you on what you like and what you think looks the best, because you could take the front over the back, but to me it seems to make more of a buckle that way because you've got a pocket here. So I'm going to take the front edge underneath the back side and go ahead and put my button on, or my snap rather. And I don't know if I'll go ahead and put a decorative button on top as well. I might do that. And then so I'll do that on both sides. So that'll be my side closures. There we go. and I'll fit it on the doll to kind of see how far in I want to go. But that way I still have my pocket that works, and hopefully this is all within frame still. Okay, and then on the straps, so you can just put a button on the top and a snap and have them snap on. And here they are, and I have not yet done the buttons and snaps, and it looks like I measured the straps pretty much exactly where they need to be in the pattern, so they will just be a button and a snap because there's not enough to fold back to adjust anyway. And so yeah, so then here's our pockets with, you know, pencils. We got a little clip, and if we back out a little bit, we've got the hammer loop and the pockets for, we got a ruler going on. And then let's see, I didn't get the shirt done yet, the button-up shirt, so he's just wearing a tie-dye shirt for now. And then on this side we also have another loop for a paintbrush. I don't know who would carry a saw in their pocket, but I thought I'd stick it in there just to show that there is a pocket. And yeah, the only thing I was surprised at is that I thought I had made these so they were going to be really baggy and really big. But as you can see on the front, it is not too big at all. Actually, it could stand to be a little bit more loose. It will fit. Oh, my doll stand is kind of pulling too. But yeah, it's pretty snug around the bum. And yeah, the doll stand isn't helping much. Let's see if we can. There we go. That helps a little. And I did put the pockets a lot lower than they should be, but now there's not really a way to fix that because I'm not gonna pull them all the way apart. But yeah, but it could stand to be a little more, have a little more room in the bum, which actually kind of surprised me. And so if you've got a slim guy like these guys, the pattern should still work. You just need to put the back pockets higher than they are. So yeah, I thought they would be more like right here, but they ended up being really low. So, but oh well, we'll just leave them there for now. And then, but the length is good. They just ended up being very snug around, which did surprise me. I thought, oh, they're going to be really baggy and have lots of room, but I guess these fellas are bigger than I thought. And I did use my other pattern, but I should have just given him more room. But he does fit into them, and he's a little, there we go. Don't want to fall over, but I think it'll be okay. The only thing that I think is the back pockets, and in truth, I could just take them off and hand sew them on, which I may end up doing if I don't like it enough to, yeah, because the more I look at it, the less I like it, so I'll probably move his pockets up. But the place where I had to put that seam doesn't look too bad, just considering that my fabric wasn't long enough to get that whole piece. And so overall though, I'm happy with how they fit. These guys, oh sorry, these guys have some long legs, let me tell you. So that is the set of overalls, and they're all finished. And we didn't get to the shirt, but that would be a whole nother video, I think, because I ramble on a lot. So there you go. So thanks for coming along and watching the video, and just let me know if you like these where we're just more kind of chatting as we sew, or if you like it better when it's more just a straight tutorial. So either way, I'm happy to oblige. So until next time, happy sewing, and I'll see you later. Bye.